The most important death in MHA so far. Bakugo bullies a baby, and Deku loses one of his quirks at the hands of Shigaraki. This has to be one of the biggest and craziest chapters in the history of MHA, and we need to talk about it right now. You guys know how this works. If you enjoy my MHA videos, you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like and comment right now for that YouTube algorithm. And if you want to help this channel awaken the true power of its quirk by hitting 2 million subscribers, do me a huge favor and subscribe right now. It is of course completely free, but it helps me out a lot, and we are almost at 2 million. Finally, this video will contain MHA manga spoilers, so please proceed with caution. You have been warned. In the previous chapter, Bakugo was doing all he could to do as much damage to All For One as possible, in the hopes that the villain will continue to rewind to the point that he would no longer be able to fight because he became a baby. Bakugo hit All For One with howitzer, impact, and a bunch of other overpowered attacks over and over again, and even though he himself is severely injured and exhausted, he continued to surpass his limits in order to deal more and more damage to the villain. And things got even worse for All For One when the vestiges of the quirks he had stolen began rebelling against him on the inside, with the vestige of Hawks' recently stolen quirk seemingly leading the rebellion. All For One was essentially falling apart on the outside and on the inside, and even though he was desperately attempting to reach Shigaraki before he rewound himself out of existence, things were looking increasingly bad for him. It was beginning to look like he wouldn't make it to Shigaraki after all, like he was about to meet his end right here and now at the hands of Katsuki Bakugo. The latest chapter starts off with All For One desperately trying to recover from Bakugo's attacks and continue advancing towards Shigaraki. He knows that he has to give his quirk to Tomura so that he can strengthen his consciousness within Tomura's body, overcome Tomura himself, and take control of the body. Then he will have the ultimate vessel, and nothing that happened up to this point will matter. The fact that he was almost rewound out of existence won't matter. The fact that he almost lost at the hands of a hero student won't matter, because he will become unstoppable, the ultimate demon lord, and he will finally be able to steal one for all. As we all know, All For One wants so badly to be the main character. He wants the world to revolve around him. He wants everyone to pay attention to him and revere him. And he feels like he's just so close. He is so close to fulfilling his master plan, so close to achieving his ultimate dream. And yet, as this chapter reveals, it's already too late for All For One. He is now literally a baby, just a bit older than a newborn, and he can't even walk anymore. He is crawling on all fours, and he isn't going to get very far, because Bakugo is right there and he blocks the baby's path. Now, Bakugo is absolutely exhausted, and he is also severely injured. He can't talk, he can't move, and he is moments away from collapsing to the ground. But even though Bakugo is barely standing, he knows that he only needs to hold out for a little bit longer. All For One is about to rewind himself out of existence, he is only moments away from disappearing, and so Bakugo has to hold his ground for just a little while longer. When baby All For One sees Bakugo standing in his way once again, he becomes extremely emotional. He cries and screams, and then he opens his mouth and shoots a large spike out of it and right at Bakugo. But Bakugo manages to catch the spike between his teeth and smash it to pieces. Presumably, All For One is considerably weaker now that he's become a baby, and so are his attacks. Bakugo smiles and says, "Nighty night, All For One," straight up mocking the villain and his new baby form. This infuriates All For One, who is now much more emotional than he used to be. He literally has the emotional stability of a baby, and he begins to scream and cry, "No, no, no, I hate it, I hate it." This emotional eruption initiates the rewinding process yet again. This is the literal definition of emotional damage. And All For One soon goes from being a baby to being a fetus, and then he literally disappears altogether. As he disappears, all the quirk factors that he had stolen from others begin to magically return to their original users. At least that's the implication at first, but then Hawks' vestige says, "Nah, not happening, way too big of a fan service." And then Hawks seemingly disappears along with the other vestiges and All For One himself. So I'm gonna be honest, I'm not 100% clear on this. Are the quirks going back to the original owners, or are they just disappearing along with All For One? At first it seemed like Hawks' vestige was suggesting that they might go back to their owners, but then he said that this would be too convenient for the plot, too much of a happy ending that serves as pure fan service for those who want to see Hawks get his quirk back, so which is it? Did they go back to their owners, and then Hawks' Vestige just made a joke about how this is too much fan service? Or did they end up disappearing because, as Hawks' Vestiges said, allowing them to go back to their owners would be too much and too fan servicey? Let me know down in the comments how you interpreted these panels. Are the stolen quirks going back to their original owners, or are they just going to disappear for good? Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe to support your boy right here on the channel. As All For One's body completely evaporates, Bakugo has like the most Bakugo moment ever. As he finally collapses to the ground, he says, "Oh damn it, I really wanted to strike All Might's victory pose." And then we see him lying on his back with his fist lifted into the air as a tribute to All Might's famous victory pose. Even though Bakugo couldn't quite manage to make the pose himself under the circumstances. He knows that he's done his part and that he won't be able to fight anymore, so he thinks, do your best, Izuku, because now it all comes down to the final battle between Deku and Shigaraki. Like I said, this is such a Bakugo moment. Even when he physically can't be a badass, he still finds a way to be a badass. And we also got reminded once again about how much he believes in Deku and how much he has progressed as a character from the egotistical hothead that he used to be. We then see a quick flashback to a few days before the battle, when a bunch of the heroes and hero students were discussing their plan against Shigaraki. Genist says that they need to defeat Shigaraki inside the UA because they can't let him get to the ground and use his awakened decay on the towns and cities of Japan. The issue is not just the physical destruction of buildings that Shigaraki could bring about, but also his disturbed state of mind, which according to Genist makes him an even more dangerous opponent to deal with than All For One. All For One wants to rule Japan, so he wants to defeat the heroes and then take over and become the main character. But the fact that he wants to rule Japan means that there still has to be a Japan around for him to rule. On the other hand, Shigaraki doesn't have any ambitions about ruling or governing. He just wants to annihilate everything and kill everyone. With how strong and determined Shigaraki is now, he could use his quirk to target the ground itself and potentially destroy large chunks of the country in the process. Shigaraki could go from a dangerous villain to the world's most destructive natural calamity, a massive nation-destroying earthquake. Back inside the UA bunker, we see the evacuees crying as they see their homes being destroyed on live TV, and Deku's mom looks upon the carnage with tears in her eyes. She calls out her son's name, clearly worried about his safety. In the present, Shigaraki seems to confirm Genist's fears because he talks about how he could use decay to destroy large chunks of Shizuoka Prefecture. And in fact, he believes that he could erase all of Japan from the map in less than a week. What's more, when he destroys Japan, there will be no way to rebuild it. The ground will be unstable, the levees will be destroyed and everything will flood, and there will be no usable land left. It would be utter and permanent destruction. And this whole idea of Shigaraki potentially annihilating all of Japan emphasizes once again what's at stake here and how important it is for Deku to defeat him as soon as possible. This isn't just a battle between a hero and the villain. This is a battle for the very survival of Japan and everyone who lives in Japan. Then we see Deku using Gear Shift, Fajin, and Danger Sense to attack Shigaraki. Their battle is taking place in the air over the land and coastline of Japan, and it is an absolutely epic high-flying showdown between two quirk monsters. In that moment, Shigaraki realizes that All For One is dead, and he smiles at the news. He says that All For One got what he deserved once he couldn't even defeat that brat Bakugo, but at least his master plan involved making Shigaraki much stronger. In fact, Shigaraki's modified body is now so strong and so fast that he is able to catch up to Deku, even though Deku is using Fajin and Gear Shift. And Shigaraki actually manages to place his fingers on Deku's face. Now Deku is able to destroy Shigaraki's fingers and get away before decay starts to take effect. But even in that extremely short period of time that Shigaraki had his fingers on Deku, he managed to take one of Deku's quirks. The panicked vestige of Daigoro Banjo suddenly appears behind Deku and tells him that Shigaraki just managed to steal Shinomori's quirk, Danger Sense. Shigaraki just stole one of Deku's quirks. Shigaraki just instantly regenerates his fingers, and he asks Deku how long he can last, implying that he is about to steal even more of Deku's quirks, and eventually he will try to steal One For All itself. This is crazy. The All For One battle just barely ended, the main villain mastermind of the entire story finally died, and yet we are already being thrust into the thick of the fight between Deku and Shigaraki, and Deku already lost one of his 7 quirks. And not only did he lose it so he can't use it himself, but Shigaraki now has it and can use it against Deku. And sure, Danger Sense is not the deadliest quirk in Deku's arsenal, although it is extremely useful in battle. But if Shigaraki keeps stealing Deku's quirks, the balance of power will shift in Shigaraki's favor very quickly, and eventually Deku won't even stand a chance of winning. Shigaraki might steal even One for All itself and become some sort of unstoppable quirk god. This is actually really bad for Deku and the heroes. Yes, the other villains have fallen and the heroes have been very successful in all their other battles, but here's the thing. If Shigaraki wins this fight, all of Japan could still be destroyed, so beating the other villains, including All for One, will have been completely meaningless. So, what will happen next? Will Deku lose more quirks? And if so, which ones do you think he will lose next? At what point will Shigaraki become too strong for Deku to keep up with? Let me know what you think down in the comments. At this point, I feel like someone will have to come and back Deku up against Shigaraki, but who can even do it now that so many heroes and hero students are completely out of commission? Could this be the time that Deku's father finally reveals himself and actually does something useful? Like, the series seems very close to ending, and we still haven't met the father, even though Horikoshi promised that we would meet him before the series ends. So I mean, if he's ever going to show up, it has to be soon, right? Right? Oh, and I have to say that I really liked how the idea of all of Japan potentially being destroyed was really emphasized in this chapter. After All for One and all the other villains have been defeated, we might start thinking, oh, Shigaraki is just one guy, there's no way he can defeat all those heroes and hero students on his own. But now that we know that Shigaraki has the power to potentially destroy all of Japan, the stakes will remain sky high even though the other villains have been defeated. So yeah, I think this was a smart move by Horikoshi. Do you guys agree? Let me know down below. If you're looking for more epic MHA content to watch next, check out my full MHA playlist, link on screen and in the description. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like to let me know. And if you want to help this channel awaken the true power of its quirk by hitting 2 million subscribers, do me a huge favor and subscribe right now. We are so close.